everyone. I hope everyone is having an amazing day. My name is Sasha Balasingam, and I am so grateful to be here with all of you virtually. Thank you so much for giving me your time, and I look forward to making the most of it. Today, my presentation is about the importance of special needs awareness in emergencies. Here's a little bit of introduction of what I'm going to be covering. First, I'll start with an introduction, then I'll be going over some information and important things I've learned along the way during an emergency when people with special needs are involved. Then I'll go over a program I've been working on for about a year and how it connects to this entire thing. And finally, I'll conclude this presentation. So to start, I wanted to share a little bit about me. So hi, my name is Sasha Balasingam. I am a junior in Los Gatos High School in Los Gatos, California. Let me give you the key information as to how I ended up in front of you today. So my older sister was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when she was 2 years old, and I had just turned 1. Pretty much my entire life since then has been impacted in some way, and I've grown to really love it. I've been volunteering at her programs, after-school activities, special education classrooms, and so much more, basically since I was in elementary school. I got into town government, and since 6th grade, I've been speaking out at district meetings, city councils, school board meetings, etc. to discuss including the special education classrooms. Even though we have a fairly small population in Los Gatos, we have an even smaller population of special education at Los Gatos, and thus I wanted to serve as a voice for those who don't have one. I've been on the Los Gatos Youth Commission, which is essentially the town council for youth citizens of my city, and this year I'm currently serving as the chair of the commission. I've been working on special needs awareness and bringing that into our city through my platform here. Additionally, during COVID, I underwent training through the Parents for Change advocacy program for 6 months, where I trained advocacy skills to go state and nationwide. This past summer, I also participated in Stanford's Neurodiversity Project and completed over 60 hours of training. I'm currently on their leadership team and core committee of the Stanford Network for Neurodiversity and Advocacy. That's why on my slide I have these 3 bullet points. First, I'm a high schooler. Second, I've been advocating for my sister and the special needs community in my city. And finally, I'm a younger sister who is just trying to make the world a better place for my sister. Today, my goals are to share with you through this presentation the most critical information to discuss to first responders during an emergency, an incredible program in my city that I hope to bring to other cities and benefit the special needs community. And finally, to spread awareness about emergency situations and what we can do to help. Okay, in an emergency. First, the absolute critical information to convey during an emergency to a first responder is to communicate the disability, let them know any sensory triggers and typical behaviors. The reason why it is so important to discuss any typical behaviors is because even if it is a familiar behavior to you, for your loved one, and your family, there is a good chance that to a first responder, like a law enforcement or firefighter, they could accidentally mistake this as an action or a noise as a harmful behavior and something unnecessary and do something unnecessary to your family member or loved one. Additionally, if your loved one is nonverbal, letting emergency personnel know other alternatives on how to communicate with them is imperative so that if you are ever separated from your loved one, the firefighter or police officer knows some way how to communicate with them and get them out of danger safely. And finally, letting them know specific mannerisms that might elicit a bad response out of your family member is extremely helpful for them to know what not to do. This can include, for example, not coming into their personal space, not touching them on their shoulders, not saying specific things. All of these can make a difference on how to calm your loved one during a time that is anything but calm. However, above all, instructions must be simple and clear, that not only the first responders remember it, but also everything else, because everything is so chaotic and you want them to understand as much information as possible. So I mentioned sensory triggers in my previous slide, and I wanted to go a little bit more into depth. Sensory triggers can be certain sounds, sights, smells, textures, tastes, anything that create a sensory overload. In times of emergency, everyone's emotions are already incredibly heightened, and there is already an intense amount of stress in the air. However, when the bright lights and the loud noises are added to the mix from things like sirens and police cars, this can cause your loved one to have a breakdown, do something unpredictable, or act unnaturally. Trying to minimize the noise as best as you can be extremely beneficial in de escalating any possible meltdowns as well as any situation before it gets too big. Additionally, interpreting signals are also extremely important in communicating with first responders. To you, your child or loved one or family member's behavior is natural and it's second nature to you. However, like I mentioned before, for first responders, they can perceive it another way. So, watching any sudden changes in your loved one's face, behavior, or body movement, and then effectively communicating it to a first responder can also reduce any potential problems significantly. According to law enforcement autism specialists, the two major reasons children with autism have died in fires is because they have either one, retreated to a favorite hiding place, or two, retreated from an approaching firefighter, frightened by appearance. A very important thing to remember is that having at least one family member assigned to get that individual with special needs out of the house or whatever location you are is extremely important because you know at whatever time you have one person designated. That same person should also ensure that they do not re enter the home once they are safely out to do things like retrieve a favorite object or flee the situation. A typical behavior of people who have special needs is to flee, especially when there's something like a disruption in their schedule. We want to make sure that doesn't happen, especially because many people with special needs don't have situational awareness and they don't understand things like running into a burning building can cause danger because they don't have a perception of that danger. Regardless, all specialists have suggested the tip of preparing a laminated card containing basic information. This kind of basic information includes things like your child or loved one's typical behavior, any medications, any symptoms, that kind of thing. But I'll go into that a little bit later. The importance of the community. So there are also a lot of proactive steps that can definitely help someone with special needs get more exposure. Making a stop to the local fire and police department to get officers familiar with your family member can not only help the officers identify your loved one, but also your loved one become a lot more comfortable with this kind of environment. When they see firefighters with all their protective and firefighting gear, such as the oxygen masks, the blood pressure cuffs, the medical equipment, the stethoscopes, the stretchers, they'll feel a lot more comfortable, and in the event that any of this medical equipment needs to be used on them, they can feel a little less stressed. Finally, letting your neighbors know in case of an emergency simple details on how they can help if you are not able to reach your loved one with special needs can be extremely an extra step for any emergency, whether they are wandering off one day and get lost or in a bigger emergency and you don't know where to reach them, they might be of assistance. Although many first responders go through training of people with special needs, they often still don't have a full grasp of understanding of your loved one's disability. Part of the reason of this is because in almost half of neurotypical individuals, they are affected by other conditions, whether it's medical, behavioral, emotional, or others. They tend to be concerned and paired with other disabilities. However, first responders often don't know that or they don't know how to typically approach that. Many times they might not understand whether one has a strong level of independence or a low level of independence, similar to how they communicate. Because, for example, autism, which is a spectrum, it affects each person individually. There is no one-size-fits-all training, and therefore, from a first responder point of view, it can be hard for them to judge how this person reacts, especially if they don't know them or know anything about them beforehand. Because of this, first responders are always looking for ways to get information about the individual from anyone, whether it's a parent, a sibling, anyone in the location. And because of these reasons combined, this leads me to my next section of the presentation, SNAP. SNAP stands for Special Needs Awareness Program, and I will talk lots more about it, but before I get into it, I wanted to share a story to let you guys know why I got involved into this field of advocacy and why I believe it is such an important topic, and ultimately why I'm here today. So almost 1 year ago, last September, in Fremont, California, there was a terrible fire accident in which a mother and her son got trapped in a house. At 2 a.m., this house had caught on fire and both of them were trapped. Her son had autism and he refused to leave the burning house because he was too scared and unsure to get through the flames, despite his mother's calls. His mother, despite much trying, couldn't get him out because she wasn't strong enough to take him out. His mother tried until their last breaths, but tragically, both of them got trapped in the house and neither of them made it out. I heard about this story right around when it got released because that boy was one of my sister's friends and they had both attended classes and playgroups together. My entire family was completely devastated, as were several members of the special needs community. That's when I wanted to do something and try and help things like this prevent from not only my sister, but other families just like ours. I reached out to the chief of my police department and the supervisor of the Los Gatos Youth Commission to work on a solution of how we can improve the response to situations where people with special needs are involved. From there, I learned about the SNAP program, and from then on, I've been involved in working on the Los Gatos SNAP. Stands for Special Needs Awareness Program. So what is SNAP? Essentially, this program is designed to provide first responders with important information when responding to calls that involve individuals who may have a memory disorder, hearing impairment, autism, or any other kind of behavioral disability or disorder. Any kind of family member or loved one of a person with special needs can complete this application. This application includes things like their physical description, their psychological description, medical conditions, any past experiences with first responders, and an updated photo so they can be located and identified. This information then gets registered into a confidential database, which is disclosed only to police officers and appropriate emergency personnel via the dispatch center. So how it works. When a call for service is placed to the residence provided, the address can be matched up and an alert will be given to dispatch notifying them that a person with special needs may be involved in the call of this emergency. The picture and information written on the form will be provided to the officer so they are made aware of the individual and any special instructions on how to interact with that person. Like I mentioned on my previous section, it is absolutely imperative to explain your loved one's disabilities, behavior manifestations, sensory triggers, medical issues, medications that may cause behavior disruptions. What are the important things we want first responders to know? Is this person nonverbal? How is the best way to communicate with them? How to approach this person in a certain manner? Maybe saying things like, do not touch my child around the shoulders, or do not touch my child around the face as he might get violent. If we had this on a form that first responders, such as police or firefighters, were able to hear beforehand, this could help tremendously in times of emergency, as a lot of the time people, such as the family members or parents, forget important details, especially in a frenzy of an environment like an emergency, and the correct information might not get relayed to the first responder. Additionally, time is getting wasted. As much time as you spend explaining different behaviors and different conditions of your loved one with special needs, that time is getting wasted when they could be saving them out of danger. And finally, it can avoid a bad situation from happening when they go into the call knowing what things to do and what things not to do. Yes. Essentially, SNAP gives a quick, easy, and poignant points for the officers to understand in a special situation, which not only helps the family but also the first responders. So here is an example of the form. The form of filling out the SNAP program is only 2 pages. So as a family member or loved one, it's rather easy questions that come second nature for you. However, for a first responder, these information is completely new to them. And if they read it beforehand and they go into a situation like this, they'll have all this information ready to go and they'll know how to interact with this person. So I'll quickly go over some of the information on this form that makes it so effective. So on the first page, it has the name, the address, and some basic information, as well as an image where you place an updated photo of that person so they can locate this person with special needs in that hurry. Additionally, they got some physical descriptions, which adds more to the location. It talks about relevant medical conditions or behaviors or special needs. And in these boxes, it has categories like speech impaired, visually impaired, hearing impaired, whether you're nonverbal, seizure disorder, cognitive impairment, do you have cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, Asperger's, mood disorder, or other. Additionally, they have a space for additional information that might not be included or additional information that first responders may need. They also talk about special considerations. So this is where you would check off whether your loved one with special needs responds well to verbal commands, responds well to touch. Do they have a speech delay? Do they communicate using ASL? Do they use another language and they can't speak in English? Do they have sensitivity to light or sound? Do they use a wheelchair or walker or cane of any kind? Do they have a tendency to wander, a tendency to hide, combative or aggressive behavior, etc.? The second page is the main key part that makes SNAP so special. It talks about emergency contact information at the top, but in the additional information section, this is what helps the first responders really know how to interact in times of emergency with your loved one or family member. So the first question is talking about methods of preferred nonverbal communication. Like I was mentioning in my previous slides about what to do in an emergency, if your child or family member is nonverbal, how can they communicate with them if you guys are separated and the first responders are unable to talk to your loved one? What can they do? So you would write that down. Maybe it's using sign language. Maybe it's using a picture board. Maybe it's using their iPad for text to speech. Maybe it's using whiteboards. Methods of preferred verbal communication. Even if your family member or child can speak, but they have limited vocabulary, what are some phrases or preferred words or preferred sounds or songs that can either calm them down if they are screaming or having a meltdown? Or what are some commands that work well and they'll listen and they'll understand, such as get out and they know how to run? What are favorite attractions or locations where the individual may be located or found? This is incredibly important in things like natural disasters, such as earthquakes or a fire. If they run away and no one can find them, the first responders know, oh, they put on their SNAP form, this is where they are usually located, so let's check there. Any atypical behaviors or characters of the individual that may attract the attention of first responders. This is also really important because, as I've mentioned in my previous slides, sometimes behaviors that are normal to them, that are completely harmless, can be red flags to first responders, and they don't understand that. They don't understand that that behavior is harmless and not going to hurt anyone, but they might see that as some kind of alarm. So knowing beforehand that it is a typical behavior of them can really help them understand what that kind of person is like. Additionally, it's got questions like the favorite toys, objects, music, anything to calm them down, identification information, things like do they carry jewelry, wear tags, ID, medical alert bracelets, any kind of tracking information, etc., etc. So this is the SNAP brochure of what SNAP looks like. As you can see, it's got the overview, why SNAP is important. Participation in SNAP is completely voluntary and confidential. Because you're filling out a lot of important information, it's really important to the police department that it's kept only for the dispatch and only released in times of emergency. Special needs include cognitive, physical disabilities, inability to speak, walk, or understand commands. Individuals with special needs may become disoriented and may not remember their name, address, or familiar places. And SNAP is a tool for first responders to recognize that these special needs can assist individuals in emergency, and this information helps adapt the approach in a safe manner. Being aware of any possible medical or behavioral concerns of individuals with special needs ensures the safety of that individual, the first responders, and our community in whole. Here is a video of SNAP. It's a little 1-minute preview, and it gives a little bit more information of the people in my city who signed up for SNAP.
Hi, my name is Peter DeSena, and I am the Chief of Police of the Los Gatos Montesino Police Department. Today, my colleagues and I are here to introduce a new community initiative that we're very excited about. It's called SNAP, or Special Needs Awareness Program.
SNAP is a confidential program that residents with disabilities can enroll in voluntarily. The program is designed so that when responding to calls, officers can better address the needs of people with cognitive and physical disabilities.
Applicants can provide an emergency contact and share helpful information with the department, such as their preferred method of communication. Applicants also have the opportunity to share how they respond to touch or verbal commands, and if they're sensitive to bright lights or loud noises.
The information and photo provided in the application will be entered into our confidential computer-aided dispatch system. When a call for service is placed, a SNAP participant's name or address will be used to identify who they are and how best to accommodate their needs.
Having prior knowledge of a person's special needs will assist our police officers and emergency personnel in resolving calls for assistance in a safer and more effective manner for everyone involved.
When you or a family member signs up, a SNAP bracelet is supplied free of charge. When worn, this bracelet will further assist field personnel in visually identifying program participants.
So as someone who filled out and was one of the first people to fill out a SNAP form for my sister, this process is incredibly easy for the parents and family members that fill it out. It's a very simple process. It takes a matter of 15 minutes, and the town coordinators do all of the work and send you back the ID like you saw in the video, as well as all your information is getting logged on into dispatch. So this SNAP program has been a major success in Los Gatos, but my goal is to implement this program into our cities and counties around California. I believe this is a really beneficial and not very complicated procedure, especially because Los Gatos has already implemented it, and therefore so many cities can replicate the similar model. The goal of SNAP is to better help the citizens of our community and help improve our interactions with those who have special needs. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all trying to do? Now it's time for my conclusion. So my goal is to spread SNAP, special needs awareness, in as many cities as possible to help as many people and special needs communities as possible. However, until then, please be safe and take the precautions if there is a chance of emergency. Keep a one-page form in your house with basic information. Get exposure to police departments and firefighters so not only they are accustomed to your loved one with special needs, but so is your loved one. And finally, have family and neighbors who can help you during an emergency, because you never know what that extra step might help you in. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. To end off, I wanted to give you a quote of one of my favorites from Stevie Wonder. We need to make every single thing accessible to every single person with a disability. Thank you for your time today. If you are interested at all in making SNAP a program in your city, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to work with you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to save my email for the future, and I hope to talk to many of you soon. I truly appreciate all of your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.